Okay, so tonight we have a Q&A session. Under right intention, you mentioned that uh, if children tie their monthly allowance for parents with conditions, they are not fully giving. They give partial only, and they are letting go partially only. Okay. I think this statement is not true in every case. Sometimes it's wiser to set conditions. As a daughter in traditional household, you know your mother will use your hard-earned money to support her favorite son. Now, this son is idle for many months. He doesn't want to work because he cannot get the high-paying job. He thinks he deserves and shuns low-paying jobs even though they are available. By giving money to the son, the mother is actually encouraging him to remain idle. In this case, shouldn't the daughter set conditions to ensure that the allowance is used wisely and prudently? Okay. Example, the daughter will monitor mother's expenditure to check whether her allowance is being spent on. Would Bante comment on this situation, please? Because more and more, I'm finding that though the Buddha's teachings remain perfect, but one has to be wise in knowing when and how to apply in modern life. This is the challenge. This is a challenging question for me. let me scroll this a little bit so that we can able to see it in one page. I think it's too big. Paragraph. Okay. All right. Hopefully I can see in this one. All right. Right. Yes. Let me go through some of the things first. Yes. On the time that when we are beginning on the talk on the Noble Eightfold Path, when we begin to give a general understanding about the Noble Eightfold Path before we go into the deeper aspect of the morality, then I did mention that when we as children, when we give to parents, so sometimes, as I said, we give with a lot of conditions, with a lot of what you should do or should not do. In that sense. So, as I said, that these are not a fully sense of giving. It's a partially of that we are letting go. We are letting go partially. I mentioned those things, but I've a lot of things that why I've said this. But before we go into that, okay, you said it's wiser to set condition, not to say I do not go against this one. In a certain sense, I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you in a certain sense. Later we'll talk about it. Now here you put here example. I think your example is more like it's a truth. Something is true. Well, it's not just an example. Maybe something is very true in our everyday life. Now, some of you may if you are not a Chinese. If you are coming in from overseas and you're reading this sentence, as a daughter in a traditional household, you know that your mother will use the hard-earned money to support her favorite son. And this one is something that we have to address this thing. Because in the Chinese culture, if you are a son and daughters, then in the traditional, in the more old-fashioned thinking, the parents is always that there's a favoritism, and it always goes to the son. And the history also shown that thing. One thing is that you have a son, is that the son, first of all, you will bear the surname. In Chinese, the surname is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big thing. And also with all the economical wise, financial, and all those things. So in the Chinese tradition, and there's in the olden days, there's a favoritism. Even nowadays, I've still once in a while, did see that there are this old type of mentality to say, and then they favor the son and not the daughter. Although they love the daughter, but they favor the son more. This is some of the things. If sometimes you may read it and then you may not understand, then, well, okay. Now this is the son idle for many months. Now he doesn't work and so on. So the money is giving, the mom is giving money to the son and actually encouraging him to remain idle. Okay. Shouldn't the daughter set condition that the allowance is used wisely and prudently? Okay. Now, when we are giving, I cannot really answer your question over here because I have to be there. But if I'm there in your shoes, I will kind of like act what you are doing also. Act what you are doing if I'm in your shoes. But looking at the spiritual context, but here as a monk, and I'm looking at the spiritual context. And here I said that when the offering is being done, this is not a full offering. Although it is wise, but it's not a full offering. One thing is that we can basically divide that offering into two parts. The first part is that offering or giving or dana, that there is a worldly giving. Okay, worldly giving here means there are still wholesome effects. They are still condition connected. And overall, it is still wholesome. But it is still with conditions. Even though your choice is a right choice or is a wise choice for that particular situation or the situation that you are in right now, you find that this is a wise choice, well and good. But it is still with conditions. And when it comes with conditions, therefore, the giving is not full. All right? When the giving will not be full because there is certain conditions is involved. The other one, when it comes into, for example, like a very deep spiritual way of giving, then when it's fully letting go, then we do not set any conditions anymore. Take for example, when we, sometimes you may hear about the parami, and especially the dana parami. And the dana parami is connected with this Visantara Jataka. And at the end of the perfecting of that parami, the bodhisattva has to give up the wife and the son. Even an old person came to the house without knowing who he is, and the old person requests for his wife and the child, he also has to give them up because of to perfect the dana parami in that sense. So you see, that type of giving, that form of giving, is that the moment the person asks, although that person is supposed to be Sakadeva Raja according to the text, and he disguised himself as an old person in order to test the bodhisattva whether he can able to let go everything or not. So too, when you see, therefore, when you see these things, that they can able to fully give up without any condition. And here we are only giving money, and then we already set conditions in how is it to be done and not to be done. Although in a sense of worldly sense, as I said, your situation, I can agree with you. Now, worldly sense, I agree with you. In overall sense, I also see that there are still conditions that's involved. For example, or sometimes you look at another way of offering is that if the son or the daughter goes to become a monk or a nun, then here he cannot able to give anything at all to the household, to the parents and so on. He cannot give, he cannot support, and then he goes to a monk. And then the worldly people may think that, you see that one very, very, very selfish, thinking about himself only. It's all his parents he doesn't want to support and all that. He become a monk or she become a nun. And then, although the worldly people look into it in that way, but in the overall sense, it's so much more greater than just offering to the parents, But of course, later on, when he or she becomes much more, he can offer it in another way, a much more meaningful way. But because of our worldly looking at things, because of our worldly ways of seeing things, then we always associate with all this narrow way of looking at it. Oh, if it doesn't support, that means he is not filial piety. It is not. He doesn't have that filial piety. He doesn't have that care and concern for the parents. The worldly people may say that. So if we are so attached to all this, what people say, and then without looking at the further goals, the higher goals, then we'll always stay in where we are. We cannot able to come out from that zone. It's always, we always pull back by it. Now, since you all are mostly worldly devotees, I don't think there's any monk or nun, or maybe there's nuns, or maybe who knows, monks in the talk. So most of you are lay devotees, and you have to deal with the everyday parents or children or siblings or your colleague or anything. Then here, your resources are limited. Your resources are limited, your finances are limited, and so on. And therefore, your choice has a certain degree of condition. Then it's totally understandable. It's totally understandable. You cannot change. It's not so easy for us to change in that sense because of our way of looking at things. So therefore, what you are the example that you have given here, it's okay for you to do that. It's perfectly all right for you to do that. But we also acknowledge that there is still conditions there. Take another example, since we are talking about this one. Another way of how we still attach to our things. This one happened in every meditation. Happened in every monastery. Every monastery that at least I went to. So something like this. So the devotees come with their food for breakfast or for lunch. Let's say there's a lot of people, there are a lot of people coming for breakfast or for lunch, especially for lunch, and then they come and offer the food and so on. Then after they offer the food to the monks, and then after the monks have finished, right? Then after the monk finished, and then they left, and then the devotees usually they will stay together, and then they will eat. Then that is where you see their attachment still come up again. How? Because the food that you cook, this is I cook one. Although you offer it just earlier on to the monks, they're giving up. But when the monk have left, give up, it's nobody anymore. So back to you again, then this is yours again. A lot of times, A lot of times we do that. We see that these things are happening. And not only that, sometimes, of course, even with a few, if let's say you have two, you have to take back the extra food, even though you cook or somebody else, you have to take back the food. If not, you cannot leave it there. But there are a lot of people, a lot of devotees that comes, and then they offer that particular person. Sometimes they take back their own particular food back also. Yeah, the attachment is still there on that food. Yeah, don't really fully give up, in a sense. All right. Okay. All right. So this is about all on the tonight's this one.